where it became obvious that people were not prepared, and we terminated. And said we'll do this in 2 days after we're all ready to do it, because we have a kid's life at stake here. And if we can't talk about meaningful stuff to make a meaningful decision, this is not a checklist. This meeting is not something we check off. This is a kid's life at stake. And if this were your kid, would you want everybody to come to that meeting clueless? Or would you want everybody to come to that meeting prepared? So think about it always being if that's your flesh and blood. Yes, ma'am.
I apologize. I have a few logistical questions that maybe are a little off where you're going, but when you have the behavior and the academic integrated, because I
Yes.
think we are very siloed in local state schools. Who is the facilitator you mentioned?
Oh, great question. I thought you were going to ask something else. I didn't know what you were saying. You were a little bit off. I was a little bit off.
No.
So we have, how big is your building?
It's we're district for Buffalo Public Schools.
Okay, so pick a building. 600 kids? Okay, so 600 kids, you have 30 teachers, plus support staff, between 25 and 30 teachers, plus whatever. So in a building that size, I would probably have 3 or 4 people trained as a facilitator. It doesn't matter, the process is the same for behavior as academics. So you don't want the same facilitator all the time. That's who wants that job, right? And so you would have, in a school that big, I would probably do at least 4. I thought you were going to ask when we do it.
That would be my other.
The other question, so here's our most popular method, is we do it during the day. How many of you are or have been classroom teachers? What do you want to do when you walk in the morning? Go to a meeting? No, you want to be sure that when those kids show up, it's not a train wreck. And you don't want to still be unpacking your bag. And how good is your brain at the end of the day? If it's like mine, it's mush. So we do it during the day. And we have it on a particular day, and we hire a substitute for a half a day. So it's relatively small cost. So that the teacher can be there. And in our meetings, they last about 2.5 hours. We never do more than about 3 cases. If you can't hire a substitute, who out there doesn't have classroom responsibility, who could serve? Many times, I went into the classroom, took over the classroom so that the teacher could come to a meeting. So if you can't hire a substitute, then the substitute comes to your class, you come to the group. You go back, the group talks about the end, briefs for the next one, goes to her class, you come. Goes to her class, you come. So 1/2 a day of substitute could free up 3 teachers to come to a problem-solving meeting. And if you can't do it every week, then, and I don't know about you folks, because Buffalo's more rigid because it's a bigger district, but when I was a building principal, the sub-fund was never monitored. Because when you can't knock it, better say no. Yeah. So,
Physically bring people into the building.
so then look at your resources that you have. So for 1 day, twice a month, who would be willing to go and cover class? I have 8 minutes to go. So I'm saying, so all I'm trying to do is all my years working in buildings and being a building principal, I knew when teachers came in, I didn't want to mess with them. Just let them get on task. And by the afternoon, they're exhausted. And it's just not fair.
So the facilitator is not a classroom teacher?
No, facilitator can be anybody who can be available to do these. It could be a special ed teacher, it could be a psychologist, it could be a counselor, it's a facilitator, it's neutral.
They're gathering all that data?
Most of the data are gathered by whatever you have a teacher prepare. We have a packet. And so the office provides attendance data. It comes from different places. So it's a standard template. Okay? And you know, whatever stuff you want that I'm talking about today, all you have to do is to email Teresa or whoever, and I'll get it. She can send it to me. She knows who's here today. Okay? So it's a standard packet, what the teacher does, what the office does, any information that a psychologist, social worker, speech person, remedial reading teacher is working with the kid, any of that kind of stuff. So you get as much as possible. Good? Okay. All right, let's move ahead. This is going to be a little easier because I've been talking about this stuff all day. I don't know why all these are popping up, but probably the wrong slide. Okay, tier 1. Tier 1 is what everybody gets. End of discussion. The tiers are differentiated by who gets them, not what they get, ever. How many of you do social skills training in small groups? Anybody? There you go, thank you. We do social skills training in many schools every morning for the first 20 minutes. Classroom teachers do it. We teach them how to do it. It's easy to teach a teacher how to do it because you're teaching social behavior the same way you teach math. So it's model, role play, performance feedback. And it's done around behaviors for which kids are getting referred to the office most frequently. So social skills training is tier 1. You use it as tier 2. We have some very small group of kids that we do social skills training, anger control training. So in some schools, that is instruction for everybody. In some, it's for some kids. So that's an example of why we don't differentiate the tiers by what is taught. In tier 1 also, it's the widest curriculum, the fewest number of assessments. So let's take reading, phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary comprehension, all of them are taught. We do only benchmarking and high stakes assessment. That's it, separate from what teachers do on a daily basis. So there's minimum assessment, and it's for the health and wellness of the school. We'll see that in a minute. I put some stuff in here because of integrating academics and behavior. These are some things that I want you to look at when you have time. What are your social emotional learning outcomes? What is the behavior stuff? Is it a pervasive culture of respect and collaboration? High rates of positive interactions among all members of the school community? Motivated, participatory, learning focused? Is that what we do every day in our classrooms? So when I was a building principal, because of the kids we had and their needs, 30% of the teacher's evaluation every year came from 10, 5 scheduled, 5 not scheduled. 10 classroom observations where I simply coded positive to negative interactions with kids. Minimum was 3. Above that, it increased your evaluation, which increased your cash value. For those 100 kids, we never made negative comments to them. We never yelled at them. If you yelled at one of those kids, that was a discussion. If you could not yell at them, this was not the school for you to work in. You didn't get fired, you just got transferred to an environment where your interpersonal style worked much better with farm animals. I don't know. But the worst thing you could do for kids with serious emotional issues is to be in their face. It doesn't work. So we also know that if teachers use 3-to-1 positives to negative with kids, and maybe a struggling kid in particular, that kid's behavior will improve dramatically. If you get to 5-to-1, you're going to see amazing changes in kids. And I'll say, well, what if the kid never does anything good? That's often a question. So I'm going to give you, I swear to God, an honest answer to this. We have reinforced kids. Let's say Marissa can't do anything. She can't look at me. She blah, 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 blah. On my grave, we have said to kids, I like the way you're breathing. Because I have to be honest. And if that kid doesn't get positives, if I say, Marissa, I really like the way you're breathing, you're like, what? I like the way you're looking at me. Thank you. You have amazing eyes. That is wonderful. You have to start with the basics. So the idea that you can't reinforce a kid because the kid never does anything good, that depends upon the radar that what it's looking for. Every kid does something good every single day. We just have to find it. So that's why that whole thing works. This is just some more stuff. Explicit instruction and pedagogy. I'm going to recommend, if you're not, don't use it. I don't normally recommend stuff, but I'm going to recommend to you that you take a look at skill streaming. or the Prepare curriculum. It is evidence-based for early childhood, elementary, and middle high school. And it is direct instruction for social emotional training, social skills training, and your academic behaviors on that list come from the list called Classroom Survival Skills. Classroom survival skills are these academic behaviors. That curriculum has direct instruction for every one of those academic behaviors, as well as the other social emotional. So it's skill streaming by Research Press. And don't expect to spend a lot of money, because this is not a big box full of stuff. This is 3 curriculum manuals with some supporting materials that you're free to duplicate, with some assessments if you want to use them. So the idea that we don't know how to teach kids to listen, we don't know how to teach kids to follow directions, we don't know how to teach kids to self-monitor, it's all laid out for you. And it's highly evidence-based. So food for thought. Okay, the next thing about Tier 1 is, what are effective instructional strategies? And I know I mentioned this to Teresa, I think if not, would you be sure that everybody has this PowerPoint?
It's downloaded on the website already.
Okay, and then you can just make full pages out of things, okay? These are the 10 instructional strategies with the highest level of evidence-basedness for student growth. So this is what we look at when we do walkthroughs. If you're a special ed teacher, who in here is a special ed teacher? You are, you're closest. And you're working successfully with Anne, using instructional stuff. Don't you want to know whether or not in the general ed classroom, the instructional strategies being used with her are the effective ones you're using with her? So we would ask you to identify which of these, or others, you are finding most. And then we have our special ed teachers going and do observations in the general ed classroom to find out what the match is between the instructional strategies in gen ed and the instructional strategies in special ed. And if they don't match, we got a problem. A big problem. It's easily solvable. But we have this list we operate from. So food for thought if you're interested. And we have a bunch of questions, and I'm not going to go through this because I'm going to ask you about the data. We have a bunch of questions we ask for Tier 1. So, if we're, John, what's the name of your school?
Wilson Elementary.
Wilson Elementary. So if Wilson Elementary is using MTSS for Tier 1, here's what it looks like. Every time they do benchmarking, they get the data. As a leadership team, they sit down and they look at the data from one benchmark to another. I'm going to give you an example, a chance to do that. And they make a determination about the health of their school. Are kids at Wilson getting better over time? That's the leadership team. How many teachers do you have in each grade level?
3 or 4.
Okay, 3 or 4. So then, a member, it could be John or it could be whoever, after that helicopter view of the data, will schedule meetings with grade level PLCs to go over the data, to drill down with questions that you have from looking at the data, so that the grade level teachers understand the same thing that the leadership team understands. Okay? Those occur usually over a 2-week period of time. The leadership team will discuss it whenever they can figure it out. And the reason it's over 2 weeks is because you might do your kindergarten one day, you might do the first grade team the next day, or if they already have PLC meetings, you line up with those meetings so you don't add extra meetings and you review the data. So let's look at some data. This is data from a school district in Michigan, which shall remain unnamed. Look at the triangles at the top. This is 3rd grade reading for the entire district. Do you want your kid in that school district for 3rd grade reading? Yes or no?
No.
Why not? What happens over time? It gets worse. So they should have the things that work up to our school district. We really would glad you're here. We recommend you don't stay after October 31st, because at that point, all hell breaks loose and it's a downward spiral. They have a problem. This is an unhealthy third grade. The curriculum supervisor for the district has a problem. Because this is district-wide data. If this was Wilson Elementary, John would have a problem. But it's not. So that's the definition of unhealthy. You start off with 53% of the kids being proficient, and you lose 10% over time. You would be surprised at how many districts this is actually what the data look like, and people actually look at it. So in the case if this was Wilson, then you're going to have to say, put a problem-solving meeting together. What are the reasons why our kids are not getting better in reading? If it's the district level team, we do the same problem solving with the district level team because this is a district problem. They need to come up with why the reading curriculum isn't working. Because it's not, at least in third grade. And there's no way to deny that. Now, can you imagine if we put this up to attract parents to come to a school? Here's our data. We really want you, at least for a while. So let's look at this. Any of you use Renaissance Learning STAR system data? Awesome. So this would be a good engagement. Do you guys raise your hand? Okay. So here, these are fall of 2015 data. This happens to be a school district that we're working with to help them do what you're hearing about today. Just look at it, okay? So we got 63%, that's down here, the bottom right, 63% of the kids are hitting benchmarks. The category that Red Learning uses is on watch for blue. I don't want you to be on watch. I don't want you to watch these kids. Watch them do what? You would want to monitor these kids frequently to decide which way they're heading. So, the example I was using before with Wilson Elementary, look at the color change areas. Green to blue, blue to yellow, yellow to green. Do you see that there's a whole group of blue kids that are very little different from the green kids? That's going to take care of a little push. But look at the bottom of the blue. The bottom of the blue kids on watch. We're supposed to be watching these kids. Just as you can tell, it irritates me. It irritates me when we do this. The on watch here, these blue kids are no different from intervention. But they're still blue. We'll watch them for a while. So those colors don't get tied to the colors. Get tied to the groups that are performing at similar levels, because it cuts across colors. So moving a yellow kid from here to here is a small push. Moving this kid from here to here is a small push. Look at all the red kids, except for 3 of them. They're basically all at the same level. So when you're looking at grouping kids, the good news here is that the urgent intervention kids, and you're going to see the result of this in a moment, the urgent intervention kids are almost all at the same level, except for these 3 kids. There's one thing you can see. So what do you think, how do you think kids would respond if they're all at the same level and they get the same intervention? Pretty good? The intervention's not chasing kids all over the place, right? So let's take a look at the winter data, the January data of this year. Went from 63% to 73%. Went from 18 kids in urgent red to 9. So here's the summary. We'll just put Wilson Elementary at the top here. You guys feeling pretty good about how healthy your school is? I would. I'd be having a party. Look, and by the way, plus numbers are good for on-watch and at proficiency. Minus numbers are good for urgent and extremely urgent. So they reduced their urgent kids by 50%. That's awesome. But it was primarily because those urgent kids were all at the same level. Who they didn't yet get were those bottom kids. So I'm going to really see if you're paying attention to 2 further and prompt you here. We went from 18 to 9. What percent reduction was that? 50. Okay, we reduced it by 50%. So in the winter, now the team is going, we reduced it from 18 to 9 in a quarter. Some people might say, well, if we reduced it by 9 that quarter, we can reduce it by 9 the next quarter. Don't go there. Do not go there. Number one, you've got the 9, these are worse kids now. You've got the easy ones. You got the fish that are hanging around begging to go into a net, right? Now you got the ones you don't know where they are. So if you were going to try to reduce it by the same percentage that you reduced it the first quarter, what would you set as your goal for the next quarter for the number of kids in urgent intervention?
4 or 5.
Yeah, 4 to 5, absolutely. So once you have these data, you can set realistic goals. And you can also say to a parent says, you a good school? Anybody ever a good school? Let me show you why we're a good school. Here's who we got last fall. Here's where they were performing. Here's the growth we've made with every one of those. And we're most proud of the fact that we had kids at the bottom. We reduced it by 50%. If that's the kind of school you want your kid in, we welcome your kid. So we don't say all the wonderful things, our wonderful teachers, we have a new roof, it's not leaking anymore, all of that kind of stuff, the mold has been gotten out of the building. Let's show you. So does this look very different than that? That's MTSS. That's what it's about. Because, let me ask you this. Oops, going the wrong way. So, a total of 13 kids moved out of urgent intervention and intervention. I would suggest to you they're also going to move out of referral for special ed. Those are 13 kids that are off the table from a teacher's perspective. So if you want to reduce their flow to your SST teams or to your child study teams, it comes from this. And I would predict that you're going to have fewer referrals for special ed in a building that's dropping its urgent intervention kids by 50%. Good? Make sense? Okay. We've just been kind of going. We have about 20 minutes. You want to just go? Okay. If you need to get up and stretch or use facilities or move, do it. That's just good. So now look at this one. This is our Florida assessment system. It's very similar to Dibbles or Angel. It's kindergarten class. So now the team is sitting at Wilson with a kindergarten teacher. And we're looking at the data. So look at the far left column, look at the far right column. Is this an effective kindergarten classroom, yes or no? Quick, yes or no? Yes. So remember we talked before about positive, questionable, and poor decisions? And I said one of the positives is it lowers the level of risk. So here's the cool thing. You don't need numbers, just go with colors. Assuming you're not colorblind, because you would have red, green colorblindness and blue, yellow. There's no blue here, but there is red and green.